What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMayo. I'm your host. Sitting in tonight as my co-host is the prodigy, Mike Cologne. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Hey, Mark, doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited. We have a great guest coming in. She's running a little late. Hopefully, she'll join us soon.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, if you don't know, Mike has a great podcast of his own. It's called Mike in New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And let me put up the banner here so people can see it. I want them to. The goal here is for Mike. Mike is trying to get to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. So while we wait for a great guest, Aphrodite Jones, to join us, maybe you can, write that down and remember it, and then subscribe to him. I'll remind you later as well.
Yeah, channel name is MC's Audio, MC''S Audio, and it doesn't cost anything. It's free. I got an eclectic mix of people up there. Some NYPD, FDNY related guests too. So if you can go and subscribe and get me to 1,000, I don't ask for much, but I'm asking for that, please.
Yep. So you mentioned before we got on right now that you had some pretty. I love the fact that you're doing reporters. You interview reporters, right?
Yeah, it's an eclectic mix. I'll do somebody from the sports field. I'll do some people from the news field, and obviously police and fire guest, which is the bulk of the show. But there's certainly reporters and sports figures too. On the sports end, Mike Lupica was on, and Mike Lupica is a childhood hero of mine. So that was great. And then just recently had on Alec Baldwin from CBS New York, who's a friend of mine and a great reporter. Ashley Banfield was on. And I don't want to say who, but I made some headway on a couple of significant guests. But yeah, Banfield and Bauman I just had on, and they were both great, especially Banfield.
All right, yeah, that's good. I'm very happy for you, and I think you got a great career ahead. You're also booking the show. You helped me book it.
Yep.
And our guest is not here, so I'm gonna have to roast you a little bit.
Where do you want to start?
Now, why don't we say hello to our people that have joined us tonight while we wait? Who do we have here in the chat?
Josh is here. It's our producer, co-producer, because I help out on that end, but he's way more of a producer than I am. I just do the booking. Dawn Marie, who's one of our moderators, of course, she's very loyal. Diane B, Raquel Pranzo, Marie Green, Factual Breakdown. She's the best. And of course, we have Marianne Gibson, Sunny Houlihan, Just Jules, Starshine, Single Mom of 4. She's a constant. And yeah, that's pretty much who we have right now. We hate to keep people waiting. We wish Aphrodite, however you say her name, was here. But in the meantime, we hope that you will enjoy our both handsome faces,
Hi, Raquel. How are you? Raquel says, good evening, everyone. Looking forward to this episode. Starshine has joined us. Finally going to catch a live. Love these guys. Watch them from the UK.
Our esteemed lieutenants here, Peter Pranzo, golfer Pro 12s watching from Staten Island. Shout out to Staten Island, where the Wu-Tang Clan is from. So
I can almost guarantee you that Starshine is talking about Bill and Phil.
Yeah, well, let's differentiate that. You bring up a good point. For those of you,
we're in the process of building a platform here, and it's the Police Off the Cuff platform. So what does that mean? That means there's a bunch of shows that are going to be under our platform. And they're all going to be law enforcement related, and we're going to have different guests and different hosts and stuff like that, and it's going to be fantastic. And this is one of the shows.
Right.
Bill has a true crime show. I think he's doing coffee time with Bill in the afternoon now too.
In the mornings.
And so that's pretty much it. So we appreciate that if you tuned in, but if you tuned in to see Bill and Phil right now, they're not going to be on. It's going to be me and my handsome co-host. What did you say?
It wasn't me. It's somebody in the background. My apologies.
Oh, is that yours?
That's here at the house. That's.
Oh, you're in your house?
Yeah, I'm always in my house. You really think I have a studio? Yeah.
You look like a giant sitting in a tiny room.
I'm sitting on a bunch of stuff right now. I'm 5'8", so I'm in the middle. I'm not that tall. I'm not that short. Oh boy, it's the camera's on me alone. But yeah, I'm like sitting on a bunch of stuff right now, and I have like a computer stand, so that helps.
Do you remember what was the movie? The holiday movie, Elf.
Yeah,
he was the big. You look like Elf right now, sitting in.
He was the big one. Yeah, I remember that. Will Ferrell.
Is your head really that close to the ceiling?
Well, the ceiling is like slanted. It's not that close. You know, if I go back like this, I'm not going to give myself a concussion.
Folks, we got to get him to 1,000. He needs a better studio. We got to get him down to at least down to the basement. Can we get him down to the basement? Damn it! That's all we're asking here.
It's a long journey back to 1,000. I mean, I'm almost at half 1,000 at 500, but yeah, it's, you know, we're getting there still. I think the more guests I get under my belt, you know, the more subscribers naturally you're going to get, because it's all about the name. And I do have some miniseries that are serving as the bulk of the show. Like I mentioned, you know, I have a miniseries on the bomb squad of the NYPD, on the emergency service unit, on the FDNY. And that is certainly helping, because people love that. You know, I got off the phone with the bomb squad guy today. I'm going to have him on soon, hopefully. So, you know.
Yeah, well, as we wait for Aphrodite, hopefully, I don't know. I'm getting nervous right now.
Enough about me. What do you have coming up?
Maui Swift is in the attic. Well, what I wanted to tell people that are, if you're new to New York, okay, so here's the situation. I know a lady. I work kind of sort of as a doorman part-time in the city. And one of the ladies that I'm, you know, lives in the building. She got punched in the head in times in Grand Central. So she became one of these. We know about the Filipino lady, the nurse, just getting over her shift, that was also punched in the back of the head, not by the same guy, but this is a pattern here.
And she died.
Yeah, she died, and it's such a shame. So what's going on is, you know, thank God this lady is okay. All right, she probably has a concussion, but I referred her, like I always do, to the Victims Compensation Fund. And if you are a victim of a crime somewhere, you should know that, especially if you live in an urban area, your area probably has some sort of Victims Compensation Fund, because sometimes to get over these traumatic events, you may need therapy. And you're the victim of a crime right now. All you have to do is ask the officers that show up, or, you know, find out on your own. But you want to, every urban area has a Victims Compensation Fund, and you can get therapy, and they'll take care of it, and they'll reimburse any losses, things like that. So just so you know, these things are available to you out there. God forbid if you're a victim of a crime like what happened to this lady. And I wish there was something I can tell you as far as protecting yourself, but this is the kind of stuff that you get blindsided on. And I don't even like talking about this stuff, but it's out there, it's happening. I think it's important that you're aware of it, to be aware of your surroundings. We're all trapped in our phones nowadays, and don't do that. Don't.
I went to the city recently to visit one of my pals, Danny McNally from the Bomb Squad, who's a good friend of mine, and Irma Rivera, who's a regular on this show, another good friend of mine. And I didn't, like, I was on the phone when I was on the train, obviously, because we were all sitting down and whatever, even though you still keep one headphone out to listen in case something happens. But as soon as I got off the train, I put my phone right in my bag, and I was head on a swivel, you know. Because of that very reason. You just never know these days. And you have to do that all the time. Even when New York City was relatively safe, you still have to do it. But now more so than ever, because you're walking the streets, you're seeing, I mean, I saw it. It was depressing. I was happy to be back in the city for the first time since COVID had hit. But you see these EDPs, you see these people who are strung out, and it breaks your heart, because those people don't have their faculties together. And who becomes collateral damage for that? You.
You know what? If I walked past you, when you came to the city, were you like in your civvies, or did you wear the suit and tie?
No, I wore my civvies. I was dressed down. I wasn't dressed too casual, but I was in the middle.
I probably wouldn't recognize you.
Yeah, because you're so used to seeing me in this garb.
Yeah. Imagine if you dressed all hood, like you had like a Kango on.
Well, I have jerseys though. I rock my jerseys and like a pair of jeans. Yeah, like I'll rock those. Like that's as casual as I like to get. I'll if I was ever there's a joke that one of my mom's friends, you know, my mom worked in the city of New Haven for many years, and so a lot of the New Haven cops and firemen she was good friends with. And I would never do this, but one of them used to say to her, one of the cops, he's retired now, great guy. If I ever see Mike walking with his pants down, I'll beat his butt, take him in the patrol car, and drive him back home. You know, so. Yeah, I mean, that always kept me on the straight and narrow. But no, I think I might have to, because I'm in next time I'm in the city on business. probably next year. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to be meeting a friend of mine from NBC News, so I have to dress up for that one because she's bringing somebody else.
I see that Irma's in the chat, and if
She is?
Aphrodite's not going to show up, maybe I could send her a link.
Where did you see her?
I saw her in the chat. Irma, are you in the chat? Say something. I don't know how to send her a link though. I'd have to go to Google Chrome, right?
I'm looking through now. I'm trying to see where she. I don't think I didn't see her. She's the locator.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, that's her. That's her name. If you see, yeah, that's. All right. We just heard from Aphrodite. Hang on a second. Let me shut my camera and mic off. I'll be right back, folks. Mark, take it away.
All right. I guess he's gonna find out what's happening with Aphrodite. Oh, what else can I tell you? If you're in Royersford, Pennsylvania, or anywhere in that area, you'll know that there was a great comedy thing going on. That's in Pennsylvania, by the way, Royersford. This guy, a friend of mine, Soul Joe, he was running a comedy show under a dome, outdoors, under a dome that he built himself, paid for out of his pocket, during the whole pandemic. And he had some of the biggest names in comedy come out there when there was nothing going on anywhere. These famous comedians, not that I'm famous, but I was out there too. We all went out there and we did these shows. And tomorrow night, politics may have it, whatever. The dome is going to go. He's got a new location. But oh, look, Aphrodite's back. I'll put this up again. There she goes. We'll get her on. But it's tomorrow night. If you're in that area, we'll come back. We'll come back to this. Let me just hide this. No, remove him. Let me add. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
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 Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's all right.
Are we live?
Yeah, lucky for you, I can improv pretty good. There you go. Let me see something.
Okay.
No, wait. That's not what I want to do. There we go. Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
Sorry
you look great.
about this.
No, it's fine. You look great. I'm just happy.
I'm doing this on my phone right now.
Okay. All right. Whatever.
I don't know. I can't
it
do
works.
it on my computer.
No, it works. It works. I can
Yeah,
hear
you look great.
I can see you. I can see the guy in the
Okay,
background.
awesome.
Hey, there goes your dog. Hello.
There goes my dog. I know. Of course.
Hi, hey, buddy. So listen, I'm going to introduce you right now. I already introduced us. Everybody
John,
knows
could you
this
just
is.
close the door for me, please, honey, and leave Barney here. It's fine. Thank you. Okay, great. I am ready to roll.
All right. So I want to thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know I'm Mark DeMeo. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Colon, and we have a great guest. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'll tell you a little bit about my guest. She's a pioneer in the true crime genre, an author, a reporter, and a television producer. She was the executive producer of True Crime with Aphrodite Jones. She's also worked for Fox as a reporter. She's covered the trials of Scott Peterson, Michael Jackson, Dennis Rader, and she's written 8 books. I want to hear all about them. Let's welcome Aphrodite Jones. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, I'm happy that you showed up. Listen, I want to just ask you a question before we even start.
Go, Mark. Go.
All right. Well, you're half Greek, right?
Yes. My Aphrodite is my real name. I was named after my grandmother.
Watch this,
because I grew Aphrodite.
Aphrodite, yeah. I grew up in Astoria.
Oh, you're Greek.
Where are you from?
I'm from here. I grew up in Long Island.
All right, good. So I grew up, Astoria then.
Of course.
I want to show you something. Watch this. This is how well I speak Greek. I just want to say your mother's last name. Where is it again? Damn it. Here. I just had it here. Oh, Galumenos.
Galumenos.
I did it right?
Let's see. Evcharisto.
No, but how do you say? How do you say your mother's last name?
My mother's last name?
Yeah, Galumenos. Was it? Was
Columenos.
Columenos.
Which is like hello.
All right, Columenos. So I said it wrong, but yeah, I actually got baptized Greek.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah, well, you don't speak that much of it, I take.
No, Tikanis, Gala, Galanita.
Right, exactly. That's about where I go. Right, Yasu.
So I mentioned at the top that you are a pioneer in the true crime genre because your show, uh, True Crime with Aphrodite Jones, it was 6 seasons long, but what was the year that it came on? It was like wasn't it?
2010.
All right. So we're going back right now. True crime is like this phenomenon on the internet right now with podcasts. But you were like one of the pioneers. How did you even get involved in that? Was it? Would you?
Well, I've been writing true crime books for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been involved in this world for, 3 decades. When I started, people would ask me, why are you so into that? What's wrong with you? Really, they'd be like, what, that, like, why do you care about, why do you, and it's a calling. It's not something that I chose. I lost my parents when I was young. They died of health problems, but nonetheless, I was very young. So, but old enough to not need a guardian. So they both had heart attacks. So boom, I didn't have parents. And having that experience actually led itself to me understanding crime victims and being empathetic with crime victims, because when you lose somebody, you never get over it, no matter how they go. And if it's a murder and if it's injustice, it's 1,000 times worse.
You got into this as a journalist. You were wanted to get to the bottom of these stories.
Yeah, I mean, it needed. Every story that I have done really is about the social justice behind it. It always has been, and that's something I say about it on my website. I hope that every crime that I research, helps someone out there, because it's not crime for crime's sake. It's looking at crimes in order to figure out. For example, I wrote the book All She Wanted that became the fodder for Boys Don't Cry. It was the first transgender murder case in America, and that anybody paid attention to. And at the time, the word transgender wasn't even a word. So, I was fighting for that. There it is. Now I call it All He Wanted because, over the years, I realized that she was always a he. And there's Hilary Swank, who, made her name on the roll. This was something, again, it was a bigger thing than just what happened in Nebraska and the triple homicide, which I did absolutely cover. It was 3 people who were murdered, but only one because she was transgender, which again, wasn't a word back then. So every time I've written a book or even any crime subject that I'm really on, it's because of the bigger picture. Whether or not I looked at Anna Nicole Smith in my series and what happened with her and interview the doctors, one of whom in Studio City, who tell me, hey, I didn't know she had other doctors. We had them on camera. And yet here's Larry Burkhead telling me, oh, she ran away from me. I couldn't control her, blah, blah, blah. I have her medical reports. I have the MA reports on how many drugs are in her system when she died at the Hard Rock Hotel in Hollywood, Florida. Things like that, where it's doctor shopping, where people aren't paying attention, and it leads to, what we saw with Michael Jackson, what we saw with Prince, etc. Those kind of things. It's more about the issue rather than the wrongful death or the murder or whatever is at hand. At the moment, to tell you the truth, I'm obsessed. I think everybody is, with the Alec Baldwin situation. And when I say obsessed, I mean my initial reaction is to jump to judgment, right? Rush to the judgment. This guy has had problems with the police, with violence since 1995. Okay, he assaulted somebody, a photographer in LA. He got acquitted. He was in a trial in a court at some point in LA. I have drawings of him there. He has had run-ins with photographers and either pinned somebody against his car, punched and reached at someone else all throughout these years. And in one instance, he was actually riding his bicycle down Fifth Avenue in New York City the wrong way. It was issued 2 warnings and ultimately was arrested. And he laid it on the police as though the police were wrong. And he got belligerent with the police. And the thing about it is, as silly as it may seem, you're riding your bicycle the wrong way. When you do it on Fifth Avenue, which is a packed and crowded street, one of the biggest in the world, you can kill people.
Yeah,
So-
listen, I'm going to tell you something. Listen, I'm not a big fan of his politics. I've watched his movies growing up. I think he's a great actor, but he's also a New Yorker. And if you put a camera on me through my years and all the people that I had to freaking knock out just to make my way conveniently through the city, it's not. Listen, it's just part of life in New York City. There's 1,000 arguments to be had in New York, and if you're a celebrity, I had a commercial that was running here for about 2 years, and I always had to remind myself, wait a minute, you got a commercial on TV right now. You look like an idiot right now arguing with this person. But that's what happens. You forget. You just freak out because people do stupid things. So I chalk that up to Alec being a New Yorker. But listen, we got a bunch of fans. Yeah, you might not agree with it, but that's as a man too, when you get challenged like that. And like I said, I don't agree with his politics at all, but I can understand when it comes to what I want to do. Mike, look at the comments, because I'm sure there's people that have something for Aphrodite.
Well, I want to ask Aphrodite a few questions myself in a moment. Nobody really has any questions yet, but I'm getting roasted for my setup. I will say that. Anthony Monica said I look like a giant stuffed in a little box. And Marie Green said that I look like I'm in a cupboard right now. So thank you to them both. But as I like to say, if I can survive the middle school lunch table, I can survive anything. So on that note, I want to dive into, and we're talking with Aphrodite Jones here on Police Off the Cuff. This is After Hours. He is Mark DeMeo. I am Mike Colon. About psyche for a moment. You have worked a lot with police departments, so you know cop psyche, but also killer psyche. We're talking about Alec Baldwin right here, somebody with the loose temper, to say the least. And this is a situation that's happened before. We recall Brandon Lee. That was, for the looks of it, strictly a tragic accident that ended up costing him his life. But here's someone, the actor that killed Brandon Lee, didn't have a pattern of this type of behavior, but here's someone who does. So for a case like his, and for other cases that you've covered, some of which are notable in terms of you mentioning Anna Nicole Smith and Michael Jackson, what are some of the key observations you look for in psyche?
Okay, so the psyche, I believe, of Alec Baldwin, and the reason I bring up these instances, and it wasn't only in New York, it was also in LA outside his Woodlands Hills home, which is suburban, that he's beating people up or has been accused of doing such. And he had an incident on American Airlines. He was thrown off the plane. I mean, this is not just one isolated here, one isolated there. There has been a stream of violence and belligerence, and in essence, basically, I'm above the law. That's how I see Alec Baldwin. Okay.
Yeah, but I hate to interject, but what does that have to do with somebody handing him a gun and saying it's clean?
I will tell you. Go
ahead.
Right. As a producer on that film, okay, he is responsible. Certainly will be held civilly responsible. I guarantee you, for who is in control of the set and who is in control of guns and props on the set. Who hired that prop master? Who hired that armorer, who apparently was a rookie? And now we find out that rookie had problems and only worked on one movie prior to that. And that was with Nicolas Cage, and she was apparently went on set with guns under her armpits and rifles in two hands and then shot off rounds, not live rounds, but shot rounds off loud enough that Nick Cage ran off the set saying, "You just blew out my effing ears," and wanted her fired. So that's the only experience this person had before Alec Baldwin and his film company hired her. And, the mishandling. I mean, you guys know about the protocol of guns.
I'm an actor. I've had guns on the set plenty of times. But in New York City, there's a cop on the set.
Well,
there's a unit. There's the movie TV unit that cover. They're always there. They're there with the armorer, or whatever. But
so here's the thing.
So, but are you saying he cheaped? What you're saying is that they cheaped out when it came to hiring their crew.
All of it, because
but that's something that's pretty much
film.
Exactly. It's exactly.
And the reason that half a dozen crew members walked off the set the night before is because of poor conditions on the set and cited safety conditions. Okay.
Well, I didn't hear about that.
Oh yes.
A
And
dozen.
That
You
happens.
say a
Oh, that
dozen
happened.
the night before?
yeah. So the morning of the killing, you see, a new crew came on that were not union, that did not have the experience. So now you have unexperienced people that nobody's watching anything. You got rookies on the set because it's done cheap on the fly. All right. And who's responsible for that? The producers are. And Alec Baldwin, not as the actor, but as the producer, is responsible for that. And when you find out the instances that went on prior, I don't know if you guys have studied this. I really have. The assistant director who handed in the gun and said cold gun, right, had another issue and was fired off of a set in 2019 when a prop gun injured someone on a separate movie. So then you're looking at, are you vetting these people who you're hiring? Do you even know what you're hiring here?
I think you're bringing up a good point in that it was a low budget film. Although they have a big star, Alec Baldwin, in it, he may put, a lot of times you put your name, you attach your name to these projects to get them made.
Well, let's cover a couple of things first.
Let me just finish this point though. What you attach your name to these projects just to get the film made. Now, how involved, we're going to find out, because they're obviously going to, they're going to get indicted, and there's going to be probably a trial. And
well, Mark, I don't know about that. And let me back up. Let me back up a second. First of all, the DA in Santa Fe hasn't said much other than the investigation's ongoing. One of the things that they have found, and I've read the warrant, okay, and what they have discovered is 500 rounds on set of combination of blanks, dummies, and live ammo.
And what does that mean?
It means that
compared to what? But how do we know how many other sets have?
Well, what it means is no, live ammunition.
Okay.
Live ammunition is mixed in with that, not just one bullet.
All right, listen, I'm going to give it to you. They're going to figure that out in a trial, but I
don't know that it'll ever get to a trial.
Well, somebody's going to hang, and he already sent a tweet out. Well, he didn't. It was he shared a tweet which basically threw the other guy under the bus. Already, he did that.
And that's what I'd like to ask you about, Aphrodite. And, because there's two things that I don't like. We have a question from the chat, too. One, his behavior. Now, granted, the Lee case was different because what wasn't around when Lee got killed in 1993 on the set of The Crow? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, social media, period. So whatever was going on there, what wasn't going on the set, we really don't know. Until this day, it's still a murky thing almost 30 years later.
Right.
But over the weekend, immediately after this tragedy in which a young woman, a mother, lost her life, he's tweeting. In the first place, I would not, even if you have reps, I would stay the heck away from my phone unless it's my family or the police that want to talk to me after something like that, because I would be inconsolable. And you have the sheriff that gave a press conference, and this really want to get your thoughts on it. And this comes from Spoonless Valkyrie, and if I said that wrong, I apologize. And she says the following. Did you watch the press conference, which I'm sure you did, because, and quote, the sheriff adamantly refused to comment on Baldwin's state of mind, seemed like he was covering for Mr. Baldwin.
Well, and here you go back to the original question that Mark asked, which is, what is the state of mind of somebody on this set? What is the state of mind of Alec Baldwin? Personally, as I see him as somebody who believes he's above the law, yeah, he can have his scuffles with paparazzi, and I get that, he's macho. But he's done enough to tell me that he does believe he's above the law. Many celebrities feel this way, okay? And he knows people are pinging, plinking, whatever you call it on set. They're using real guns and ammo to pop off cans. I don't know if you realize all this that's going on. It's just so much gross negligence, guys, on this set. That to me, what the DA is considering doing is filing involuntary manslaughter charges. Now, it won't be against Baldwin. It will be against either the armorer and or the assistant director that handed him the gun. But wasn't the assistant director Who handed him the gun?
It was one of the prop handlers, and because after the shooting, he was immediately saying over and over again, according to the New York Times, quote, nobody's ever in all my years, nobody's ever handed me a hot gun. He just kept saying that over and over and over again.
And I get that. And the guy said cold gun. His name, what is his name? David Halls, I believe, is the person who handed the gun. Yeah.
He's gonna hang.
The guy who had problems prior.
The only thing I have a problem with is I don't think that his past fights or his attitude in the street had anything to do with the fact that some guy handed him a cold gun. Now, does his overall attitude towards making a low budget film? Anybody who makes a low budget film, you're gonna go to the second tier of people. Now, when you go to the second tier of people or the third tier of people to make a film, I don't know how much he has control of who's doing the hiring. You probably have somebody who's picking out the crew they want.
You make fair points, Mark, and I can't truthfully argue with you. I get it, but what I guess I'm caught between the world of law enforcement that I work with and the world of Hollywood that I also work with. And I can only say this: in the world of Hollywood right now, Alec Baldwin is being looked at as a victim, and Alec Baldwin is being looked at as, oh, he's a wonderful man. He's a great man who, this is a tragedy that happened to him. No, the tragedy happened to the cinematographer who was shot dead, okay, who grasped her stomach and started to fall backward and was caught by the assistant director, who also got shot through the shoulder by the same bullet. That's the tragedy. And for people to, especially in Hollywood, to sympathize with Alec Baldwin at this point, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's been too much violence in his past, and karma has a way of coming around. I'm not saying it's connected directly to this. No. I'm more talking about karma.
Now you bring up another interesting thing when you talk about karma. And, whether you believe it or not, that's your thing. But I don't think I don't think anybody would wish anything like this on anybody. So
well, I'll tell you something.
He's never going to be the same. That family's never going to be the same.
And that's true.
Nobody involved in this is ever going to be the same. They're passing around a petition through SAG and AFTRA right now, the Screen Actors Guild. They have like 600,000 people who have signed it already, saying that we need to take real guns off the set.
And that's a good thing that will come out of this, right, Mark? When you talk about why I'm focused on it.
But don't forget, you're also talking about how many armorers and how many people that were in charge of, this is a whole part of the movie business that's going to be gone.
Sorry. You know what?
It does. Well, I get what you're saying, not to cut you off, Aphrodite, but tell that to Miss Hutchins' family. Tell that to Brandon Lee's family.
Thank you.
I think they'll have a different answer.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's the other thing, too, that I think is really weird when I talk about karma. And yes, I do believe in it. OK, I believe what comes around goes around. It's full circle, baby, in life. OK, and you know what's odd? Alec Baldwin in 2017 remarked about an Orange County police officer who shot somebody that was going for a gun. He was acquitted. But he tweeted, and I don't know if you guys have paid attention to this tweet. They brought it up quite a bit. He tweeted, "I wonder what it must feel like to wrongfully kill somebody."
I saw that.
Listen. I saw that. I've seen all the tweets. Like I said, I'm not a fan of his politics.
But this is an old tweet from 2017.
No, I've seen the tweet. I've seen the tweet, and I'm not a fan of his politics. That being said, for some reason, I feel like I know the dude. I'm not even 6 degrees separated with him because I'm friends with Steven, his younger brother. But no. What I'm just saying, as a human being, no matter what his politics are, no matter what he hates cops. God bless him. What can I tell you? That's his thing. But I don't think he hates cops. By the way,
no, he doesn't hate cops.
His brother played one. His brother used to be on Homicide Life on the Street.
But whatever I'm saying, this guy would never kill anybody. I mean, it's not in his. That's not the guy. This was a complete accident. This was a tragedy, a horror show.
Okay, except Mark, for one thing, he did kill somebody.
I know. Yeah, I know. And
Okay,
it's
so let's look at the facts and not say what he would or wouldn't. And that's the thing where I talk about karma. Let me give you a crazy little example. Someone I know, very close with, upstanding person, fantastic person, killed a cheerleader in Miami with drunk driving, and it was vehicular manslaughter. Got a huge sentence for it. The night that person was driving, the person wasn't really drunk. In fact, they didn't take him in for drinking. They didn't do any kind of breathalyzer test. I don't know. There's some screw up in the medical examiner's office, and there's a big squall over it in the aftermath. But my point is, I know the guy did drive drunk many, many times before, or on drugs or drunk or whatever. So maybe that night he wasn't drunk when he killed that Miami Heat cheerleader. But again,
yeah.
it's a karma thing.
No, yeah, I get you. I listen. Don't say that. Please don't say that.
If you run through stoplights and stop signs, for years and years, eventually the time you stop is when you get caught.
Don't say that anymore. You're hurting me. Hey, listen. You wrote 8 books, which is phenomenal. What I want to do right now is, if you could just, because time has passed through these, from the time you've written it. If there's something that you can add to the story now that you know.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so let's go back here. The first book, the FBI Killer.
Oh, well.
Well,
okay.
Tell us what was that about?
In chronological order, we can do that. Yeah. That book was made into the movie Betrayed by Love with Patricia Arquette and Steven Weber. It did very well back in time. It ran on ABC as an MLW and then on Lifetime for years. That story was the first ever story of an FBI agent going away for a homicide. He copped to a manslaughter plea. Since that time, interestingly enough, another film was made that was supposed to be a feature film, and I don't know what happened to it. It just didn't come out. It was based on a separate book, but a book from the FBI agent's perspective. So again, a little bit of karma there. It kind of went the way of the wind.
All right, let's go to this one now. This is your second book now. This is Cruel Sacrifice. What was that about?
Right. So that was about 4 teenage girls in Indiana who raped and sodomized and tortured a 12-year-old girl. You see her picture there in the black and white Shanda Sharer. It's one of the most horrific teen crimes ever, still is. And it's a book that people are horrified by, but at the same time can't put down, because really what it's about is the psychology behind those teenage girls and why this happened, between peer pressure, between family drama, trauma, being abused. There's just so much in the background, over religious zealots in one family, various things that contributed to that, to talk about what it is, how these people slip through the cracks of the system.
Okay. The next one is the one we talked about earlier.
Right.
This is a newer version of it. All He Wanted. What was it?
It was called All She Wanted, but the S was small. So it was like she, he. Because back in time when I wrote this book, there was no such thing as transgender. It wasn't a word in 1993 when this happened. So at the time, I studied transsexualism and what was transsexuality and identity crisis, etc. And I had to switch genders in the book, pronouns in the book, because that person was Tina Brandon, a female. And that when she was home with her mother and sister in Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then she went to the country and became Brandon Tina, a male, being somebody else. And so she became he, and then went back to being she. And it was
that's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I was reading, I even watched a clip from the movie. I just to remind me, because I had seen it originally, but I was the Brandon T. I noticed that. Yeah, that's pretty.
But here's the other thing about that people don't know that's important, is that movie depicted the girlfriend as being, knowing that Brandon was a female. Okay, in other words, as though she was a lesbian, and that's not what the story was about. So that movie got it wrong. Hilary Swank got an Oscar for pulling off being a boy. But the fact of the matter was, the movie got it wrong. Even back then, when that movie came out in 1999, we still didn't, as a society, understand or even deal with anything that was, quote, transgender. Again, it was now a word, but it wasn't understood. So, there's been a lot that's been learned since then. I can tell you that, including what I learned, which is to turn the book into a different title. All he wanted, because he was always a he in a she body.
I feel like we're losing Mike here because you got 8 books. So we'll go back to the books in a second, but I'm sure Mike, because Mike is a journalist as well. And
I do want to bring up something.
What?
Mike, you may know about it. I don't know. Have you seen The Staircase on Netflix?
I don't really watch too much Netflix, so
I thought I saw it. You wrote a book on that too.
I wrote a book about that particular case, and
is that one of these two?
It's called The Perfect Husband.
Oh yeah. It's here, right
and
here.
It was made into a movie for Lifetime with Treat Williams. The thing about it is that right now HBO Max has picked that up, and the documentary, The Staircase, on Netflix, and Colin Firth is slated and already in makeup filming that right now. And it's all, there he is, Michael Peterson, the real guy, and his wife, Kathleen Peterson, who was murdered by him. A jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, sentenced him for life without parole. And I interviewed him in prison for my TV show after he lost every possible appeal. After I'd written my book, when I now had my show on ID, the guy says to me, I thought she fell down the stairs, but nobody bought that one. That's on tape.
Go ahead,
Nobody
Mike.
bought that. You know what?
What?
What's interesting is The Staircase tries to make you think that this guy's innocent because he's the star of that show for 13 episodes.
Yeah. And Netflix does that, though.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to point out to you guys.
They show you
I don't
both
think
sides.
People really truly realize that. I have people arguing with me now about it. I'm like, I was at the trial. I wrote the book. What are you talking about?
You mentioned that. What's that guy? The French money guy.
The French filmmaker.
What was his name? No, the French money guy. He raped the maid in New York. Strauss-Kahn.
Yes.
If you watch that documentary on Netflix,
that I do remember.
You go back and forth between this guy did it. That's what Netflix does. But
right.
Aphrodite, give me a second because I want to. Mike he's got questions for you too.
Go, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to call me a journalist. I appreciate that. I'll have to Venmo you some money for bestowing that title upon me. But I want to go back to psyche because when we first communicated over email, you mentioned that you work a lot with police departments. And that's one thing I'm learning through my show. Like, for example, I have a mini series profiling the guys from the NYPD bomb squad. What goes through the mind of a bomb technician when you're walking towards something that could be your death? So similarly, working with these investigators who have to see such horrendous stuff and process it, not in the manner of, oh my God, that's horrible, but okay, this happened. Now I have to do X, Y, and Z. What are the theories I can work with? And who are the list of people I can narrow down to until I find the person that I think did it? From your experience working with these individuals, tell me about the psyche, not just of any cop, but a homicide investigator.
Okay. Investigator is clearly smarter than the average cop. Come on. I mean, you don't get into that field just by chance. They tend to be much more methodical, but also they pick up on clues that you would normally not understand. And they're very good at reading body language. The other thing I noticed in working with them, and you'll see this when you see police interrogation videos, they know how to corner the suspect. Once they've got a suspect there, you will notice that they'll work in tag teams and they will white hat, black hat, and that they can break down a suspect in a way that, again, is so methodical, but the suspect doesn't think it is. They don't understand that. It's like they have, like they themselves are a polygraph machine. Do you know what I'm saying? They are so good at what they're doing, if they're seasoned, that they can literally play you like a fiddle, and ultimately get that confession or get the response they need to have enough to bring you to trial.
Hey, could I ask you a question now? I'm so fascinated by Scott Peterson. Tell me about the work that you did on that, and tell me about what your opinion now is on Scott Peterson. And for those who don't, obviously Scott Peterson, he killed his wife. She was pregnant. Um, tell, tell, t-
Okay, so I covered that trial, gavel to gavel. It was a circus. You had Scott Peterson sitting there like he's Mr. Innocent in his little suit and tie. What a twerp is all I can say about him. The jury found that he was guilty, because, and I interviewed the jurors after they wanted to write a book, and they said to me the one defining moment as to what made them decide it was first degree homicide on both Connor, the baby, unborn baby, and on Lacey, his wife, was that Connor's body washed up 1 mile from where Peterson said he was fishing, and Lacey's body also washed up about 1 mile away from where Scott Peterson said he was fishing. So the chances of that are nil. He placed himself there 1
Yeah, that
mile,
was
never
horrible.
knowing that those bodies would wash up.
All right, Mike, your turn. Go ahead, because we have so many questions for you, so we got to go back and forth.
Okay. Love
Okay,
it.
well, we'll alternate, but that's fine. And we're talking with Aphrodite Jones here on Police Off the Cuff After Hours. That being said, you talked earlier about celebrities and the mentality of being above the law. You were probably, well, not probably, you definitely were front and center in witnessing, as all of America was, the O.J. Simpson fiasco in 1994. Of course, there was the Michael Jackson trial, and Michael Jackson, he was a complicated guy, to say the least. There was Anna Nicole Smith, who you mentioned earlier, who led a complicated life and died tragically and had a lot of loss in her life too, which we don't wish on anybody. When you get to that level of fame where everything is yes, 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 and you never hear no, for someone that comes not from an affluent background, but from a regular background like the three of us, how does that gradually deteriorate your moral compass?
It's a great question you ask. And clearly you could see with, Michael Jackson, the yes people around him actually created the problem for him to begin with regarding that trial, because the whole thing was derived out of Martin Bashir's documentary with Michael, which he said yes to. Never should have said yes to, because Bashir had designs on making a career out of exposing Jackson. And Jackson thought that he was going to be helped and that he was going to, have this great documentarian who chronicled Lady Diana, Princess Diana, show the world that he was not this molester. And instead, it all backfired on him. So the answer to your question is the yeses, whether it's for drugs, whether it's for media appearances, whether it's for anything. People climbed around Michael Jackson after the fact and basically used everything they could to pull at him and drag him in every direction. And I mean, you wonder, how did this guy know which way to go? It seemed, when I saw him pull up in the car, because I was covering for Fox at that time, when Fox wasn't the kind of Fox it is today, I saw him pull up in that vehicle. It was, he has, I don't know how many black SUVs in a caravan there, and he's in his own SUV. To me, and had the front position, he looked like the loneliest soul on the planet, with thousands of fans outside this gate screaming, with 2,400 credentialed media people standing there, with a caravan of, I don't know, 7 to 8 SUVs. Michael Jackson sat alone, and I could see that face, and I'll never forget it, how alone he was in this world. He didn't know where to turn, who meant yes, who didn't mean yes, it's a horrible place to be. Frankly, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, as much as I love his music and his talent. Don't get me wrong. I just think, same thing with Anna Nicole Smith, same thing with Bill Cosby. I was at the Cosby trial,
Or R. Kelly.
Or R. Kelly, but now we're getting into just one particular facet.
Yeah.
But it's not just, it's a lot of things. How does O.J. Simpson get away with murder? I was at his trial in Las Vegas. I met him. Okay. The most disarming man you ever want to meet. Okay. And he is
He
sitting
was
there
beautiful,
telling,
man. He was beautiful. The
he's
juice.
still, listen, he looked great. This is 2008 in Las
Yeah.
Vegas. And he's telling me, I didn't have anything to do with this. I wasn't in the room with them. I didn't want my stuff back. I did this. And then you get in the court and you find out they're all on tape. Every single person around him was taping him and trying to make money off him and going to TMZ with the stuff and going wherever. And that, you know, he couldn't really trust anyone, but he thought he could. You know, it's just, they become something that it's an industry that you can feed off of when you get to that kind of level. And same thing with John Benet Ramsey's father. I mean, these people's lives become destroyed, completely destroyed. And there's a part of us, unfortunately, that all seem to enjoy seeing that king fall, or that queen, or that princess. It's horrifying, but it's also true, because everybody wants to be, you know, well, my life's better. You know,
Well,
you talk about why it's so involved with true crime. It's because people want to say, oh, you know what? This is horrible what happened to that other person, but it's never going to happen to me.
I think that's society in general, though. People build you up to tear you down. It doesn't matter who you are.
well,
It's the
yeah.
rise. And then once you rise, everyone's trying to take you down. You have the ultimate bullseye on your back, to where the best place to be is in the hunt. You never want to be the hunted.
I love it.
Well, no,
You're right.
that's the woke culture for you. They're going to give you a minute and they're going to build you up. But listen, folks, our guest tonight is Aphrodite Jones. She had the show for 6 years, 6 seasons, True Crime with Aphrodite Jones. What was that? The Investigative Discovery Channel, right?
Investigation Discovery, yeah.
Investigation Discovery. And she's written 8 books. She's our guest tonight. We want to make sure that we get the people in the chat here in. OJ got lucky in the Myrtle trial. It says Molly J. Michael's had so many issues and a lot of people jumping onto his fame. Won't say either way if he's guilty, but he was talented. Anthony Maduka. Hi, Ange.
Angela Dang's in the chat. Tony Lee Blair, our Lieutenant Peter Pranzo.
Miss Kelly. F. Michael Jackson.
There's that.
That's good. My King of Kings, enablers. Scott's girlfriend reported him. I remember when Scott's girlfriend reported him, and that was a really interesting thing. That was the beginning of the end for that guy.
Yes, it was. Amber Fry.
Yeah, Amber Fry. Yeah. Well, you know what? We got 3. How much time we got? Let's just go through the other books, because to me it's fascinating how many books he wrote. It's an amazing thing. Where were we? We were on the this
book
one.
number 4. We were halfway through.
Oh wow! Okay.
The Red Zone. This is an interesting case. Tell us about it.
All right. This is the case of 2 lawyers who had fighting dogs in their small apartment in Pacific Heights, San Francisco, and those dogs killed their next door neighbor, Diane Whipple, by literally going for her jugular and ripping all the clothing off of her. And they mauled Diane Whipple to death, who was a lacrosse coach, who was actually from Long Island originally. And those lawyers ultimately were charged with second-degree murder and convicted of it. Because those dogs were looked at as lethal weapons, and they knew it because there were 40 such incidents that preceded that mauling all around the city of San Francisco, which nobody put the dots together until there was a death, a murder. Mm-hmm. And it was the grand jury in that case that asked if they could charge second-degree murder. The prosecutor was only going to go for manslaughter.
Do you think that he sicked the dogs on them?
It's not that. And this is why, you know, I get so hyped up about what happened on the Alec Baldwin set with Rust, is second-degree murder doesn't have to be intent at all. All it means is that you acted with a wanton disregard for human life. This is the letter of the law. So if you acted with a wanton disregard for human life, in other words, if you drive a car and you're drunk and you've already had convictions of drunk driving and you kill someone, then you have acted with a wanton disregard for human life. You will be charged with second-degree homicide. You will not be charged with involuntary manslaughter. Okay? It's another example of this. If you take a loaded machine gun and you spray it into a school bus of kids, okay, you are acting with a wanton disregard for human life. You will be charged and found guilty of second-degree homicide. So those people knew those dogs could kill. And that's the strange part of it, because you never want to think that the people could not, but they did know. They had a whole history with those dogs. Those dogs belong to the Aryan Brotherhood. There's so much more to that story.
Yeah,
you got to read the book.
That's why I'm asking you these things, because I'm trying to like get people to go to the, hear what's updated and go to the book. Mike,
well, thanks. I appreciate
give
it.
Him give Aphrodite a question, then we're gonna end on the movies. We're at 55 minutes right now.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask her too, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, go nuts.
So a couple things. One, and I'm sure you'll answer them in order. The first thing is, of course, you've worked with big city police departments, I'm sure, and small police departments. And in the big city, let's say New York, Baltimore, Miami, Chicago, especially New York and Chicago these days, sadly, there's so many different homicides that after a while, if you work in that field as a first responder, seeing that time and time and time again, you get a little cynical. Whereas in the small towns where this doesn't occur all that often, and it's the talk of the town, understandably, because everybody knows everybody, it's more packed in. What are the differences you see in big city investigators versus small city investigators? Because listen, they both care, but they obviously have they both have a different way of going about it. And the second thing is, and I guess we'll wrap up with this, Anna Nicole Smith was such an interesting individual. I mentioned her earlier as being a complicated individual. If you could just dive into her life and the tragedies that befell her and what led her to overdose in that hospital room, I'd love to learn more.
You asked me two powerful questions. I'm going to give you one answer real quick, and then I'll get into Anna Nicole. But regarding police in cities versus small towns, there's a case right now that we all know all too well, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. And what I can tell you is that anytime you have what Keystone Cops organization handling something like a murder investigation, you may just have flub ups that can't be undone. And in that case, all right, the Northport, Florida police, and they admitted to this, thought that Brian Laundrie's mother, Roberta Laundrie, was Brian Laundrie. So they're following her in a car. She's wearing a baseball cap, the same figure that the police claimed, thinking that Brian Laundrie pulled up to the house in his Mustang and that he was inside the house. They lost incredible, valuable time because of it. They blew it. And I can't tell you, and I don't want to name other cases in which this happens, but it happens much more in small towns than it does in big cities. So unlike what you're asking me, are the police in big cities cynical? Have they seen it all? No, they're not. They are much more seasoned. They know what they're doing. They've dealt with it before, and they're not looking at it and wondering, like they did in the Brandon Tina case, saying this wasn't a hate crime. That's what the police said in Nebraska. This wasn't a hate crime. Yeah, it was a hate crime. So I hope that answers you a little bit. I don't know if it's the answer.
Oh, it does, for sure. It is. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And then on the other thing about Anna Nicole Smith. So Anna Nicole Smith, what people don't remember about her is how spoiled she was by that man she was married to, who was a billionaire with a B, right? And one of the things Larry Burkhead, I'll never forget, he said this to me. He said she went crazy because she wanted a particular pair of $500 sunglasses, whatever it was. This is a decade ago. And she needed them, and she needed them now. And he said she had a wall of sunglasses. Like he couldn't figure out why she was making him crazy over getting whatever kind of Chanel, whatever it was, sunglasses. And it makes me think little details like that. That was her life. Her life was the reason she was with that billionaire who was 100 million years old was because he supplied her with anything and everything she ever wanted. So it really doesn't fall then only to the medical professionals that she did what she did and she was, abusing everything, because she was enabled. She allowed herself to be enabled all of her life. And to that end, she didn't kill herself in the hotel room. She overdosed. She really didn't kill herself. I don't think she planned to kill herself, but I did go to the Bahamas where she had given birth to her daughter, with that Larry Burkhead is the dad of. And I will say that while I was there, I interviewed her nanny. And Anna Nicole Smith's son died. Okay. Her son died just after the baby was born. And he was the light of her life. So here she's got a brand new baby, but at the same time, her son, who basically is everything to her, died. And actually she couldn't put it all together anymore between that and the drugs and this Howard K. Stern, who was controlling her and all about money. It's more convoluted than that. But the bottom line is to say she was enabled to the max and she couldn't handle her emotions on any level. And that's why she drugged herself and laid in bed and ultimately just died of an overdose.
A casualty of greed.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it, Mike. That's a good way to put it. I mean, I don't know how else you would put it. I mean, look at her life.
Well, she was the original, I guess. What was it? Sugar daddy?
She was, yeah. I mean, I don't know if she was the original one, but she certainly was.
One of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was up there. If you saw the guy, I remember the guy.
You remember the guy? I mean,
he was literally like 100. He was like 100 years old.
He was 95.
Yeah, he was old.
And she was like, I love him. I'll be with him. You love having 500 pair of Chanel sunglasses, apparently. That's what I come to find out from Larry Burkhead. I'm thinking,
well, I guess that's the point. It's that there's no amount of stuff that could ever make you feel comfortable if you're not comfortable.
Well, that's it. Yeah. That's just it. And unfortunately for her, she buried herself in drugs. She literally did. And then you have the whole concierge doctor thing, which enabled it.
Man, you know what? I think we're going to go a little over tonight because you showed up freaking 15 minutes late. So I just want to, we're not done with the books yet. What book is this? This is Della's Web, The Many Husbands of a Suburban Black Widow. What was that book about?
Okay. So Della is a trip. Della changed her name to Dante. And she became this very fancy lady and lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. She died in prison. So I talk about her in the past tense now. But she worked her way up a ladder and had 7 husbands. 2 were common law husbands. The rest were marriages, 5 marriages and 2 common law husbands. All of whom and each of whom she threatened to kill in different ways. One she went after with a knife. Another she burned down his house. Another she planted drugs in the car, cocaine, and had him arrested. I mean, it just goes on and on. And ultimately, she murdered her thoracic surgeon husband who had given her everything she ever wanted. The Jaguar, the mink coats, the chandeliers, the fancy house, all that she was climbing toward in her life. And she kept threatening him. And the guy, literally the surgeon, was going to the operating room wearing a bulletproof vest because he didn't know about all the other husbands. She kept changing her. She was a shapeshifter. She kept changing everything about her. There's a rumor she dated Jerry Springer, who was Cincinnati mayor back in time. She was with Cincinnati Bengals players. I mean, this woman was truly a master manipulator. And the thing is, she was teeny tiny woman. She was 5 foot tall and that little cute petite thing. Beep, 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 beep. And the way she did it was appealing to men's masculinity, appealing to that ego boy. You say, oh, you could move that couch for me. And then after the couch is when she's got the knife out. I mean, it's an incredible story. One of these days it'll be a movie.
There's a word to describe her. It's a common term my generation uses. I won't repeat it because it's not very proper. It begins with the T and it ends with the T, and I'll say it off the air, but there's a word for somebody like that.
I think I know what it is.
Yep.
I dated one of those shapeshifters once.
You did?
I met her, yeah. She was like 98 pounds. By the time we were done, she was 300.
Before we continue, though, we have a super chat, Mark, and it's from a Maui Swift, who's a loyal viewer, with a question for Aphrodite. I'll read it real quick. And she says, what about the Barry Morphew case? I'd love it if Aphrodite would look into it. I don't know if you're familiar with that case.
Which case is that?
Barry Morphew, who killed his wife, Suzanne.
I don't know this case. I'll have to look it up. You know, what happens is right now, if you see behind me files, okay, all those files that are behind me, oh wait, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, that stuff is one book that I'm writing right now. And it's all the trial interviews, the police interviews, the trial transcripts, the photos, the interviews I do with the participants. I literally have to work from real documents, and it's an immense chore or job, whatever you want to call it. So that when I'm in this, it's my life. And obviously I'll turn to a Brian Laundrie story, Gabby Petito, I'll turn to an Alec Baldwin, but I'm not following, and not to mention I get bombarded, guys, every day through my website from people who want me to, what about this crime? My son was killed. Nobody's paying attention to it. Why aren't people, of course I do believe, and I know there's a prejudice against people of color when it comes to the media looking at cases.
Well, I appreciate that you took us into that little world there, by the way. That's fascinating to me. And, I'm a writer as well, but my stuff is not nearly as organized. I think I got 3 pages of my new script under my couch. I got to go fish them out later. Yeah.
He's a stand-up comedian. He's been doing this for 25 years.
I know.
But wait. I think we covered all the movies.
Yeah.
No, the books. Is there one more? What is this? The Embrace.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so we got Halloween coming up, and this one is ripe for the picking right now. This is the story. When I say a true vampire story, it really happened. It's real. That guy, that's his real picture on the cover there, Rod Farrell, believed that he was a vampire. Whether he truly believed it himself, we'll never know. But he believed it enough to make everyone around him believe it. And he made people believe that he could embrace them and give them immortality. And these people were cutters and drinking blood and not cutters like we hate ourselves, cutting and like doing ceremonies in the embrace and all this. Teenagers, 15, 16, 17 years old. He was 16. He was convicted, found guilty, life without, sentenced to the death penalty, I believe in Florida. They commuted it to life without. In any event, what happened is he was able to convince a group of teenagers to go with him. They were taking a trip to, oh my God, that town in not New Orleans. There's another town down there that's the vampire haven, whatever. As they're taking their trip to Louisiana, he makes a stop off at this girl's house to pick her up, the one he's going to embrace. And while she's out in the car with another bunch of girls, he's got this whole scheme going. He and his friend go into the house and murder her parents. And they take little trinkets, pearls and whatever, and they carve a V into the chest of one of the parents. I mean, it's the most horrifying crime ever. But the strangest part of it is that even Heather, the girl whose parents were killed, didn't believe that that they did anything wrong. She was like under their cultish mentality while they were running away from the police. Baton Rouge, that's where they had headed. So it's a very strange story about twisted minds that started with games like Dungeons and Dragons that moved forward into believing in real life vampires. And
unsupervised children. That's
Sorry?
what unsupervised children.
Yes. And the parents are thinking, she's wonderful, Heather. She's a great girl. She lived right outside of Disney World in Florida, Eustis, Florida. But yet she's dyeing her hair purple. She's starting to put marks on her body, blah, blah, blah. But, she's artistic. And, it's hard to say, especially that was then. This is now. We think nothing of it. Okay, you have purple hair, you have pink hair, you have, tattoos on your face, whatever. It's all good. Back in time, that was a sign that something was wrong. And yet the parents didn't ever pick up on it. And she's on the phone at night with this monster who's making her believe that she's going to cross over and be able to astrally project herself.
Hey, look at this.
It's a crazy story. It really is. And one that I think it would make your hair stand on end if you read it.
It made me squeamish.
You're getting a lot. Yeah. You scared me. That's why I'm getting away from the subject right now. Because suddenly, beautifully, I love listening to Aphrodite. She is so entertaining. Thank you, POC, for having her as a guest. So
Oh,
you're getting fans out there. Oh my God, what the hell did I just do?
I would like to ask, while you figure out what you just did, I would like to ask Aphrodite, because, you talk about these cases so, a matter of fact. And oftentimes you hear investigators talking about, like, for example, Irma Rivera, who I mentioned earlier in the show. She's a retired detective out of homicide and special victims in New York, and is just a great, great person, great detective. And she talked about how investigating cases, and I'm sure you've heard it, putting up that wall of not letting it get to you emotionally, at least not too much. For you, writing about these cases, which, as you yourself have said, are so horrifying, the last one particularly horrifying for me, where is that wall for you, and how do you not let it affect your psyche and keep you up at night?
great question. I actually have to have two personalities almost. I really have, well, certainly two lives. I don't know if it's two personalities, but certainly two lives, two distinct lives. And I had to make that conscious decision when I was writing the book Cruel Sacrifice, because that particular story, again, is the most drastically horrific story you could ever dream of. And when I was writing it, I became so embroiled in it and horrified by it, and just it was possessing me, to the point that I was drinking into the night, and I had no life and I couldn't function. And that's when I realized I wasn't brushing my teeth anymore. I was just writing and writing this horrifying thing. I said, you know what? Okay, no working on weekends, no working after 5 o'clock or 6 p.m. at night, no more thinking about the subject once I'm not writing. If I can't do that, I'm not going to be in this profession anymore. That was in 1993 that I made that decision, because otherwise I would not be able to function. And I wasn't functioning. So I had to say, look, you have your fun life. You just turn it off. You go on boats. You go have a good time. You go fishing. You go surf. Whatever you want to do it. And then when you're on the mode and you're doing what you're doing, you're fully there. But you're there knowing that you're serving a higher purpose.
That was great. Let's give it up for the people that are in the chat right now. You're getting some great response. Molly J, love the answer.
It's a great answer.
Greetings from Florida. We love you, Aphrodite. Fabulous guest, Maria Green. Oh, Susie Oster was the greetings from Florida. We love you, Aphrodite.
Angela Ang has a super chat, and she says, I guess you kind of answered it, but I'll read it anyway. How long does it take to decompress after doing all this research for a book? I read one court transcript with one dead, and I can't shake it for a week. But you kind of covered it most of it.
Well, you don't shake it. You can separate out your lives and have two different, things going on. That's fine. But you don't truly shake it. You never shake it.
Miss
You
Kelly,
know it's there.
Miss Kelly says how she remembers all these cases in details is a gift. Raquel Pranza, Aphrodite is a powerful woman. Factual breakdown. I enjoy this type of format of a show.
It's been a great show.
Maui Shift. Look at that. Mike, brilliant at asking questions. There you go.
Thank you. I try my best.
You both have been great with your questions.
Yeah.
And,
We gotta,
I hope I've been able to answer them. Sorry that I came on late.
It's
I'm
okay.
not good with
You're always welcome. You're always welcome. Well, that brings us to this point. We got to kind of sort of wrap it up. What I want to do is do a couple of things. First of all, we had a commercial we want to do, and I'm going to let before we say goodbye, let's give Mike a chance to read off the commercial. This is one of our sponsors.
Go ahead. I don't see it yet.
It's up there.
There it is. Okay, folks, if you need an attorney, if you're in any kind of trouble, hopefully you don't get into any kind of trouble. But if you do, you know who to call. You know what I like to say. Hurry and call Joe Murray. Joe Murray is based in the greater New York area. He will help out anybody, and tell him, police off the cuff sent you. You can call him up at his office, 646-838-1702, 646-838-1702, or his cell phone, 718-514. If you could put the number back up, Mark.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
718-514-3855, 718-514-3855, or email him, joe@jmurray-law.com. You've seen him numerous times on Real Crime Stories. He knows what he's talking about. He was a cop for 15 years. He's been a lawyer for about the same amount of time, so he knows both sides of the coin. If you need an attorney, don't call any of these idiotic ambulance chasers. Hurry and call Joe Murray.
Thank
I
you.
love that. I'm going to
Yeah,
hurry and call Joe
yeah.
Murray myself. I think I need a lawyer after this.
He's a great
After
attorney.
this session with you guys, I don't
This
know
kid
what's
is
going to
good.
happen. Is Alec Baldwin going to come after me? Are the laundries coming? I don't know who's coming for
Well,
me.
you know what? Who cares? Because you got big money. I want to show you something. I did a little research. Watch this. Look at that.
Oh,
Aphrodite Jones, net worth $3 million right there on the internet.
okay. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You know why it's I
Type
know
in
it's a
mine.
lie?
It's like
You know
negative
what? No, no.
one.
This is why I know it's a lie. I put it in my name. Look at my name. No, wait. No, I want to
Hey.
show you something. No, this is it. This was last month. I was worth $1.7 million.
I love it.
No, that's true. That was on somebody showed it to me. And now this month, all of a sudden, I lost $700,000 somewhere. I don't
You
know
know what?
where.
You're
don't know where
investing in the wrong stocks, Mark.
But I
know what
don't
you're
have
doing.
stocks. I don't know how I lost this money. Oh, before we, I'm going to give you a moment to plug all the stuff you're working on. But before I do, I just want to say tomorrow night, I'm in Royersford, Pennsylvania. Folks, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, come out tomorrow night. Soul Joe is he had a dome there. He brought the best comedians in the country during the pandemic there, where nobody was allowed to go anywhere, do anything outdoors. And tomorrow night, this weekend is the last shows, so we're gonna roast them. And this is what the lineup looks like. If you're in Pennsylvania, come out to the show. Trust me, you won't regret it. It's going to be phenomenal tomorrow night. 7 p.m. is showtime. So, which brings us back to Aphrodite. What are you doing with yourself now?
Okay, so as I showed you, the book, right? It's under wraps. I actually appeared on 2020 with the story, but the behind the scenes of this story is really complex. I've been on the phone with the killer for an entire year, which is the kind of access I've never had in the 30 years I've been doing this. It's going to be hopefully a whopper of a book. It's the first one I've been written in 15 years. And at the same time, I'm getting ready to start up an organization to help people, but also to kind of put people together like you are with the lawyers and people who need help. Except in this case, it's going to be because I'm constantly bombarded by people who need help. People who have to, need help unraveling, whatever it is, child custody cases, wrongful filings, wrongful this. So I'm getting ready to launch something like that, but it's turning out to be a much bigger endeavor than I thought it would be. So there's going to have to be a large effort on my part to bring that to bear. It's not just throwing something together on a website. This is way bigger than what I thought it would be. So, but it's coming, and it's going to be called True Crime Prowlers. But I'm not.
No, it's great. I'm happy that we were able to be the first ones to hear about this.
Yeah,
and we wish you
I
luck
just
with the
think
book.
that it's going to take me a year to get that off the ground, if I'm lucky. Yeah,
The longest
to do
journey,
it right.
The longest journey starts with the first step, right?
That's it. I mean, look, I'm there. I'm working it. I just need to. It's hard for me to split time between writing a book and doing other stuff, honestly. And so I'm kind of figuring out that I need to.
Well, you know what?
Book.
Since your net worth is $3 million, my heart bleeds for you. Okay. You know what? I actually saw another one. The net worth for you is $5 million. So this whole thing.
I just got $2 more million.
Don't believe any of the stuff that you see on the internet. No. Anyway, folks, this was a great show tonight. It started off a little nerve-wracking. We had to roast Mike a little bit, and then he got roasted by our fans. But for those of you who tuned in and commented tonight, we appreciate it. Don't forget, we have a merch page right there on our YouTube. We figured out something that 52% of our audience has 46%, subscribed.
Yeah.
No, 52% has subscribed. Mm-hmm. But then there's like 47% of our audience that tunes in every night they didn't subscribe. So can you please subscribe to us? And also,
please subscribe to these guys. Don't let them just hang out there to dry.
No,
you can't just take and not give back.
We're trying to get to 100 million.
There you go. We're at 23,000. We're almost there.
Which reminds me, by the way, in terms of free, my books are all on Amazon. I guess readers or whatever. You can just go on if you're in that club or whatever it is, and just read them for free.
There you go.
There's
Wow.
no charge.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, the
Thanks for that
Kindles
tidbit.
anyway. Yeah. So go for it, guys. Check out Cruel Sacrifice or The Embrace right now with Halloween. Those will get you rocking.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Aphrodite Jones. You were great.
Thank you.
It was an honor having you. You were always welcome back, by the way. And Mike Colon, thank you for being my co-host again tonight. You were great. Everybody mentioned how your questions are right on point. I got to work on my questions. And for me, if you, like I said, if you're in the Pennsylvania area, come out tomorrow night, Royersford, Pennsylvania. We're going to roast Soul Joe. And thank you for tuning in tonight. You guys were great. God bless you.
Peace
We'll be
out.
back next Thursday. We'll be back.
Got it, everyone. Take care.
Good night.